Loot, a word that entered the British vocabulary in the 18th century. Around this time is when hundreds of paintings, coins, manuscripts, and many other precious artifacts were shipped across to England by colonial officers from India. 200 years later, repatriation of artifacts is underway, however steadily. Hi, I'm Richa Dwivedi, and today on NIJ Scoop, we will talk about stolen artifacts and what it means to have them back. India has had a rich past, quite literally, when it comes to exhibits of the greatest civilization in the world. Right from Hindu and Buddhist idols belonging to various temples across the subcontinent to statues, coins, relics from various dynasties that ruled across the Bharatvarsh, we have had a legacy that no other nation in the world can speak of. And that's probably why invaders were attracted to this mighty land. And that's where began the loot. When India was colonized, several thousands of valuables were shipped to various parts of the world by colonial powers. It continued over several hundred years, with smugglers selling valuable artifacts in the international market. Between the years 1977 and 1979, nearly 3,000 thefts of antiquities were reported in the country. In fact, in that very decade, as per UNESCO's estimates, nearly 50,000 art objects were smuggled out of India. Here's a quick look at some artifacts returned by various countries in the recent past. In 2016, during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, the US returned over 200 cultural artifacts, estimated at $100 billion to India. In 2018, two 12th century antique statues, a Lingodh Bhavamurti granite sculpture and a sculpture depicting Manjushri, Bodhisattva of wisdom, were handed over to Indian High Commission in New York. In 2019, two antiques, a 17th century bronze idol of Navanitha Krishna and a 2nd century limestone carved pillar motif were returned to India. In January 2020, the Australian government returned 3 artifacts to India, a pair of door guardians from the 15th century from Tamil Nadu, and a sculpture of the Serpent King from Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh, made in the 6th to 8th centuries. July 2020 also saw the handing over of Natesha Shiva statue stolen in 1998 from the Ghateshwar temple in Baroli, Rajasthan to the Archaeological Survey of India. In September 2020, Britain returned 3 15th century idols of Bhagwan Ram, Lakshman and Sita to India that belonged to a temple in Vijayanagar period in Tamil Nadu. One of the most significant returns is that of goddess Annapurna. Last year, on the November 29 episode of Mann Ki Baat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that an ancient idol of the deity of Varanasi or Kashi, stolen from India about a century ago, is being brought back from Canada. If we look at the history, the Archaeological Survey of India records show that between 1976 and 2014, 13 antique pieces had been repatriated to India. Between 2004 and 2009, no objects were brought back as per the ASI. Whereas if we look at the period between 2014 and 2020, the Modi-led government has been able to retrieve 40 art objects and 75 to 80 art objects are in the pipeline to be returned. We can say Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visits abroad have helped in the repatriation quite notably. While there's a long way to go with various processes through which artifacts can be laid claim upon, it also depends on how a country defines the object. This gets quite tricky, since if we speak of the time before 1947, the British didn't actually believe that anything they took from India was theft. Probably the reason why the Kohinoor or the throne of Maharaja Ranjit Singh that lie in British museums might never be returned. However, there still are countless relics from India that both museums and private individuals possess, and efforts are being made to identify and reclaim them. With where India stands today, good relationships and a positive approach are facilitating this faster than ever before. India has also been reciprocating by returning artifacts that belong to the rightful owners. Recently, in his visit to Georgia, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar handed over the relics of Saint Queen Ketevan to the government and the people of Georgia at a ceremony. Her relics were found at the St. Augustine Convent in Old Goa based on medieval Portuguese records. Just yesterday, the Minister of Culture and Minister of State for External Affairs, Meenakshi Lekhi, announced that 14 stolen artifacts are making their way back to India from the National Gallery of Australia in Canberra, which shows the concerted efforts of India's current leadership clubbed with those of various Indian art enthusiasts who take pride in our heritage and believe in restoring what rightfully belongs to this great nation. Until next time, keep watching NIJ for more interesting insights on current topics. Dhanyavad and Namaste.